Yeah. Oh. Gosh, never seen so many televisions in my life. One, two, three. Is it kind of loud?
Yeah, it's going.
Okay. Okay. Hello? Okay. I'm just going to start. Um, this 15-minute presentation is going to go through fast, but it's a story about how creative children at the hospital are and how their innovativeness have inspired us to design and implement the very first Makerspace in a children's hospital. This is Brandon. Brandon is an aspiring high school senior whose goal is to become an engineer. Unfortunately, Brandon was diagnosed with leukemia and was undergoing treatment in the children's hospital. At the time, the hospital didn't have the educational resources to support his educational goals. So they reached out to me, asking me to help Brandon in any way possible. So I provided Brandon with a mystery box comprising of a variety of physical and digital materials, such as an Arduino, some LEDs, a plastic cup, skin, eraser, and other liquids. And I asked the Brandon to design and make anything he could imagine. Design. Her grandmother helped to scavenge these materials from around the hospital, from the crystal to the metal string wire to the heart-shaped wrapping paper. And designing and making the sun catcher allowed Dalen and her grandmother to bond and spend quality time together. This is 16-year-old patient Amanda's invention. She called it Mana's Magic Bell, which actually solves the privacy issue in patients' rooms at night. Pressing the bell causes a colorful light to flash inside the patient's room. And Amanda was telling me that nurses were always knocking on the patient's door, waking up the children and disturbing their sleep. And she said a great solution to that problem would be to put the magic bell outside the patient's door. And when the nurse wants to enter, she would press the button and a flashing light would go off. Usually parents who are in the room when the child is sleeping at night would know that someone outside wants to enter. So they would quietly open the door for the nurse, preventing the nurse from knocking on the door.
Camera's over there. Did you plug yours in?
When Amanda was being discharged, she said this was the most fun that she's ever had. And mind you, she's been coming to the hospital for the past 16 years. This is a Vine video that she made. This is 12-year-old patient Travis's invention, a wearable mood necklace that he created using squishy circuits. The design of his necklace was inspired by his mother. He saw his mother rolling small pieces of Play-Doh into balls and stringing them together. And when I met Travis the following day, I asked him, so how did you come up with this idea? He said that he was getting really, really annoyed when people at the hospital were constantly asking him multiple times a day the following questions. Are you okay? How are you doing? How are you feeling? And those questions were around 20 to 30 times a day. And just imagine, let's put ourselves in Travis's position. If I come up to you and ask you, say, 20 times, how are you feeling? Are you okay? You get really quickly. You'd want to slap me, right? And so instead of responding to those questions, Travis said a light would better convey how he felt. He said a green light would signify that I'm in a good mood, while a red light would denote that I'm not in a good mood or I'm not in the mood to talk to you. And as Travis was designing his mood necklace, he was also thinking about other patients in the hospital. For example, visually impaired patients. He said this mood necklace could serve as a model or a template that visually impaired patients could use to design their very own braille necklace to depict their mood or state of well-being.
Well, the only thing is,
This is an idea of
the software, so
a mood alert system.
it won't.
A mood alert system
Yeah, but it doesn't. But it's not.
allows people to pick their mood and the specific kind of issue that needs to be addressed from
Plugs
the
into the
nurse.
computer,
It
it'll
consists of
go,
different
it'll
colored
go off
cards
and
with
then come back
moods
on.
or issues written on them that could be attached to the slot in the store. Pressing a button was allow the voice to go off to grab the nurse's attention, and the colored card attached to the store would rotate, just like waving a flag for help. Actually, the nurses would hear the sound from all the way down, and they would start running there. And just similar to Travis and similar to Amanda, Mackenzie was clearly sharing empathy with other people in the hospital. Another contraption that Mackenzie came up with was a snake to scare or prank nurses. Pranking or scaring is a very, very popular activity among children in the hospital. And one of the nurses was telling me that she had to be really prepared before going into her patient's room because a child would jump out of somewhere, scaring her, causing her to drop everything she was carrying. The nurses didn't like it, but the children loved it. So using different digital materials and other materials found around the hospital, such as tissue paper, plastic cup, a straw, and others, she created a snake that seemed to be coming out of his home, ready to bite anyone around its vicinity. She also created a large "Beware of Snakes" sign to warn the nurses. And she actually scared a lot of unsuspecting nurses, and more importantly, she created a lot of joy and laughter in the hospital. So these experiences and others have inspired us to design and implement the first makerspace in a children's hospital to support both creative and intellectually empowering experiences for children, their families, nurses. And before I get to the makerspace further, let me ask the following two questions. So why a children's hospital? And what problems do children's hospitals face? So children's hospitals represent 5% of all hospitals in the United States. And look at this, on average, a children's hospital sees nearly 13,000 inpatient visits. And if you multiply that by all the children's hospitals, that's a lot. And children's hospitals face 5 major issues. One is the lengthy stay. The second is isolation through hospitalization. The third is hospital-imposed immobility and the curtailment of play. And the fourth is the lack of academic retention. To address these problems, we propose this innovative mobile environment, a mobile makerspace. Why a mobile makerspace? Well, due to safety reasons and cross-contamination issues, children with chronic illnesses are not allowed to leave their room and come to one place in the hospital. They're not allowed to interact with other people. So we thought about creating multiple mobile makerspaces that could be brought to the patient's door. And the mobile makerspace can address problems in the children's hospitals in the following ways. It can enrich children's free time by allowing them to make and tinker with a variety of materials. It shifts their focus from hospitalization to creativity and collaboration. It encourages children to design, make, and play. And also it can complement the hospital school program by providing a STEM-rich context in a joyful and creative environment. This is a prototype of the mobile makerspace that I've been working on, and many features of this prototype were adapted based on talking to the children. For example, children mentioned that they wanted the cart to be colorful. All the girls wanted the cart to be the bright pink or purple, while the boys wanted it green or red. And so to cater to all, I attached LEDs to the cart that could be controlled by a remote control. So that way children could choose their color and customize their cart. Second, the cart also serves as a workbench. And this idea was given by Dalen, who designed the Suncatcher. She said she spent majority of her time just lying in her bed, and if the mobile makerspace serves as a workbench, it would allow her to leave her bed, move around, and have this space as her own working spot. Other suggestions from the kids were, how about making the cart look more than just a cart? Because frequently nurses just come into the room with plates of food or medicines, and carts are very intimidating for the children. So suggestions from the children were, how about making the cart look like a robot or a castle or an ice cream truck, which is my favorite. I have a huge sweet tooth. And so this cart next week is going to look like Thomas the Train. And one of the most important suggestions from the children were, how about attaching tablets to the cart? And I asked this child, why do you want to attach tablets to multiple carts? They said that way we can communicate with other children in the hospital, so we can share our designs, share our ideas and creations. So you're fostering collaboration within the hospital. So children, when they're in their room, they don't know who's in the other room. So if we can connect the entire hospital together through making and tinkering, that would be awesome. So having created the first prototype and field testing this next week with, I call second graders like a rambunctious group, but we're field testing this with second graders next week. We will subsequently create a second prototype. And the second prototype will incorporate key learnings from the field studies, and more importantly, has to meet hospital health and safety requirements. We'll also be testing out the second prototype in the children's hospitals. And also I will be conducting an in-depth study. I'll be spending 6 months in the hospital to better understand how children, nurses, and families interact with the cart. And I think that's really important to understand the nature of learning or the kinds of learning that takes place as children go through the experience of making. And later on this year, towards providing awareness to the community, we plan on having the first ever mini maker fair at a children's hospital. So we plan on converting the entire children's hospital into an exploratorium. And to end my presentation, I would like to share this quote with you from a patient. I asked her how she would feel about a space that could be taken to her that would allow her to design, make, and play. And this is what she said. I would love it. I wouldn't care coming to the hospital and staying. Like, you know how kids are really down and finding out that they have to stay at the hospital? But knowing that you have fun projects to work on would give you something to look forward to. It would be enjoyable. So this truly reinforces to all of us that the makerspace philosophy can reinvent learning experiences in children's hospitals. Thank you. I had lots of Hershey's Kisses before this. I'm excited. So. It's a Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee.